Hello, my name is Rebecca Cleaver, the Executive Officer at Wombat Housing and Support Services. Before beginning today, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we have gathered on today in our various places, and I pay my respects to the elders past and present, for they hold the memories, the traditions, the culture and hopes of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples across the nation. Welcome and thanks for coming, everybody. If anyone has any questions today during the presentation, there is a chat that you can ask questions and we will hope to address your questions. If not, you can contact us after today. Young people and workers often tell us that they really like to access information online. It is a much easier and more modern way of communicating. In response to this, Wombat has developed a range of innovative online resources that we are very proud of. So far, these include the Everyday Life Skills Assessment Tool, and many agencies that may be online today are already using that tool. We also have the private rental resources, which is available on Wombat's website. And very soon, we're about to launch a new resource called Learn, Cook and Eat. We'll let you know about that in the near future. But today, we are very excited to be launching a new addition to this online suite, the Everyday Life Skills Resources. This is an interactive set of workshops designed to assist in building the independent living skills of young people. Whilst it has been designed to complement the Everyday Life Skills tool, it can also be used on its own. Before going on any further, I do have some thank yous, particular people and organisations who have made this resource possible. So I'd like to start by thanking the young people with lived experience who provided a lot of their time and really valuable insights to this tool. The Yakazoo web developers, they have assisted us on a number of projects and enabled us to turn visions into reality, and we're very, very grateful for Yakazoo. We also have I'd like to thank the resource development worker, Jess Griffiths, who you'll be meeting shortly. Jess has done a fantastic job consulting with the young people and the workers and putting this amazing resource together. It has actually been a huge undertaking and she's done an amazing job, especially with some of those challenges during the COVID time. And lastly, I'd like to thank the Freemasons Foundation Victoria for providing the funding to produce all of this, and also the Freemasons Old Scotch Collegians Lodge for their ongoing support and guidance. We've been fortunate to work with both the Foundation and Old Scotch on a number of projects, and we look forward to continuing this partnership. I'd particularly like to thank Xavier and Andrew from Old Scotch Collegians, who have worked very much and supported us and given us a lot of advice over the last few years. It is now my pleasure to hand over to Mr. Rodney Lavin, who is the Chairman of the Freemasons Foundation Victoria. Rodney will officially launch the resources. Thanks, Rodney.
Hey, thanks, Rebecca, and it's so lovely to be here and to meet a number of your staff from Wombat. Can I begin by just saying how pleased the Freemasons Foundation is to support this wonderful initiative that you've got. So when we originally received your application, we received many applications from all sorts of groups around Victoria, but when we saw this Everyday Life Skills Resources project, we thought that's going to enable so many people that otherwise would not have the resources to help them out in what can be a difficult life sometimes, and we were just so pleased to support you. Who would have thought a couple of years ago before COVID that we would have done all this stuff online? Like I had never done a Zoom before COVID, and now look at us, we can all just jump online and do that. And we hope the same with these Everyday Life Skills resources. There's plenty of people out there that otherwise would not get the support that they need that now will be able to. So well done to Jess and the rest of your team, Rebecca, for developing this resource. Before I launch the project, I just want to tell your listeners now a couple of things about the Freemasons Foundation. So a lot of people have heard of Rotary or Lions or Apex, but may have heard of Freemasons but don't really know what we are and what we do. But it's really a service club like those other groups that I spoke about, but we go back hundreds of years. So in Victoria, we started the United Grand Lodge of Victoria in 1889. So it was before we were even a proper state. So we were a colony. And in 1889, our very first Grand Master here in Victoria donated. He was a well-known Victorian. He was a member of Parliament. He was a farmer and a businessman. And his name was Sir William Clark. And he donated to celebrate the formation of the United Grand Lodge of Victoria in 1889, £500. Now, I'm an accountant by profession, and I converted that to today's figures. It was about $500,000. So what happened, Rebecca, in those last 123 years, that money has been invested and more donations have been made to the foundation. Today, it's a foundation worth more than $60 million. And in Victoria, we love it that we give away most years about $3 million. So we receive grant applications from all sorts of groups out there. And of course, yours was one of the groups that was successful last year for the $50,000 for this project. So we're so pleased that in the last 123 years that Victoria has been supported by the Freemasons. And I mentioned yesterday to Steve, we all carry around this little blue book, which is not a Bible, but it's like sort of the teachings about Freemasonry. And I'll just briefly mention what our core values are. Number one, it's practice universal charity, and that's what today is all about. Providing opportunities for self-development, building friendships, foster moral standards, and seek excellence in all pursuits. So, Rebecca, when you and I were talking just before we came online, it was just to mention that our core values really do line up with Wombat and with the Freemasons here in Victoria. So without any further ado, can I officially launch what we call the Everyday Life Skills Resources, and the Freemasons, we're so proud to be associated with your project. Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you very much, Rodney. I appreciate it. And it's very interesting to hear the values too that are very much aligned with our values. So I would now like to hand over to the resource development worker who's done a huge amount of work, Jess Griffiths.
Thank you, Rebecca. Before I start today, I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon where I'm working and where we're meeting today, and they're the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and I give thanks for the opportunity to prosper from their rich knowledge of conservation skills and culture. So before I show everybody the resource, I just wanted to talk through how I created the resource and how it began. It was an exciting and quite a privilege to be part of the project. I hope you'll find it exciting when I finally show it to you. So to begin, I used the design process and I started with research. I did quite an extensive literature review, and I began to talk to case managers, other stakeholders at Wombat, to start to see what it was that the sort of problem was. And then I went into the generation of ideas. So I started to sort of think, oh, we're going to have a website. Might we have an app? Might we have workshops that we, do in person? And that's when I got a lot of the case managers and the young people involved. And overwhelmingly, it seemed that they wanted something online, and they leaned a little bit more to a website than an app, which I was a little bit surprised by. Because I thought maybe as young people they'd prefer an app, but it was definitely a website. So that's when the real work began. I come from an education background, so I designed the resource to be, I guess, a series of mini lessons. And each lesson has the same structure. So there'll be a blurb to kind of give some information about what you would expect. There'll be the outcome of the workshop or the outcome of the lesson. Then there'll be some information. And the idea with the information is that it's available to the participant in a variety of ways. So there might be a video, there might be a text, there might be an infographic. There's quite a few interactive features there. And then from that information, they move on to activities. So the activities, or the what to do next section, as I've called it, is really where the person using this resource can actually go and do something. So it's actually applying for a Medicare card, or is it applying for a birth certificate? It's actually the step-by-step about how to do it. And then at the end is the conclusion. And the inclusion is really important in learning, because it gives us that positive reinforcement that, oh yeah, I did learn that thing I was supposed to, and it also lets us celebrate that. So, you know, I was able to do that, it's done. And then at the bottom of that, there's extra resources. So there's hotlines and other places we can go to find that information. So I generated all of this idea. And then I took the content and I showed it to caseworkers. I did a number of focus groups with different caseworkers. I had a number of lived experience people look at it, which was quite interesting. A lot of the topics they gave me and a lot of the parts that I've included came from their knowledge, and I'm very grateful for their time and their knowledge. And then once we did that, we went on to the website design and creation. So I'm going to share my screen with you all now to show you the resource. So like I said, we worked with Yakazoo to get the website looking how you see now. I'm hoping everyone can see my screen. And so as you can see, this is our landing page. It's on the Wombat website. As you can see, I've got 7 different areas. So the 7 different areas are education, employment, health and wellbeing, housing, legal, transport, relationships, and money. And I just want to sort of go into just a few today to just quickly show those of us that are joining us for the launch some of the features that I'm really excited about, and I think young people will enjoy. So I'm going to go into education and employment. And as you can see at the top, there's a blurb that explains all the information about this particular page. And one of the ones that I'm really excited about was writing a cover letter and a resume. So like I said at the start, each page has the same format, and at the top we have links that will take us to each part. So I start with the outcome, which you can clearly see there. And it's got the dot points of what you're going to be able to do by the end of this workshop. And then it's got the information. And as I discussed before, you know, there's a video here, there's a tips, an infographic here for young people to look at. And then I've got the what to do next. Now, the exciting thing about this what to do next is it's basically a feature where a young person or the participant can go in and they can enter some information about themselves, and this will generate a cover letter or a CV or both. So, for example, if I've decided I want both, I go through, I put the information in, I put the information about the job, I put the information about my career experience, my education history, I click submit, and in my inbox, I get a draft. So this is going to be really useful for young people because they can just edit that, and it takes away a lot of that sort of, you know, the difficulty around doing that. Another one that I wanted to show everybody, and I'll navigate back to the homepage, or the landing page, I should say, is a budget calculator that that Yakazoo helped us create. So if I go into money, again, it's the exact same format, a blurb, all the different options, the different subtopics. And if I go into make a budget, you can see again, the outcome, the information, the what to do next. And in here, I've got a budget calculator where the young person or the participant can go in, they can put all of their spendings or their income and all those things, and it will literally tell them how much they've got to have and how much they can save. So I think that will also be a really interactive and useful tool for the young people. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the resource in a fair bit more detail as sort of a guided tour. So as I go through, I'm going to talk to you about the different sections, the different subsections, and in some ways why I've chosen some of them, or the thinking behind why I've chosen some of them. So I'm going to teach you quickly how to navigate the page, and it's quite simple. So as I said, this is the landing page. These are the different options. As you touch them, they change, so you know which one to click. I also wanted to highlight our exit feature over here. So this feature is, I think, really important to highlight to any clients because it takes them straight to the weather page, and you can't go back and see what the person's looked at. So if they're looking at something that might be a little bit sensitive, they have the option to quickly press the exit button, and it will just take them to the weather page. So that's an important feature for their safety and I think it's fairly universal. So I'm going to start with education and employment. Like I said in the last presentation, you'll see a vast range of topics. So I've sort of started with thinking young people still at school, so preparing for exams, finishing high school, and then deciding on their careers. So Maybe they're going to go straight into work. Maybe they're going to apply for university or TAFE. Maybe it's an apprenticeship or a traineeship. I've also got jobs. So how to find a job, like I highlighted before, writing a cover letter and a resume, preparing for the job interview, keeping the job. And then I've got sort of more nuts and bolts, how to get a tax file number, how to open a bank account, and the superannuation. Two that I really want to highlight is how my income will impact on Centrelink income rental repayments. And this was chosen because so many caseworkers said to me this is an issue that they have time and time again, where the client doesn't know how it's going to affect them. So hopefully this page will be very, very useful. It was hard because a lot of it links back to Services Australia, but hopefully these links make it easier for the clients to go through and say, okay, if I'm on youth allowance and I'm making money, this is how much I can make. If I'm on job seeker, this is how much I can make. So I'm really excited about this one, and hopefully it will be useful for all the case managers out there. And so another good feature is at the bottom of every page, you can navigate back to the topic. So back to education and employment. Another one that I wanted to highlight was keeping my job and leaving on good terms. So this was an idea of one of the lived consultants. So told me that some of the issues they have is not knowing how to start something. So what I've gone and done is I'll scroll down to what to next, is I've gone in and added a bunch of templates, how to write a leave request, how to write a resignation letter. So the idea is that the client can go in, copy and paste this into an email or write it down, and it's already there for them. So hopefully that also is very useful. So I'm going to navigate now back to the landing page. And again, it's just to scroll down back into the landing page. So when I go into health and wellbeing, again, it sort of goes through from sort of personal hygiene, exercise, when we're unwell, first aid, some mental health, de-stressing and calming down, getting a Medicare card, and then the idea of, I guess, having fun safely, and as well as sexual health. So another section that I've got in this, and I've also got it in relationships, is I want to know more about. Now, the idea with these is they're just simply links to information and services for someone who wants to know more about. And I've chosen 3 here, but I could go on, there's many more. But the idea is, so I'm going to go into women's health, and this is specifically for women's health. This is where I would get help if I have a specific issue as a female and I need help. So these sort of tabs, the idea is they're just for help, and they're meant to be there and meant to be easy for the young person or the other person to use. So that's also in the relationships one. Again, you just go back down to the bottom and we navigate back to the home page. Housing. This one was quite a controversial topic. A lot of young people, I think, lived in share housing, and this was something that came up time and time again. And that was how to live in a share house, how to manage conflict, and these sorts of things. So I'll go in and show you how to live in a share house. So again, at the top, where we can easily navigate to the information. So you can see the outcome there, the importance of living in a share house, the importance of sharing, and the importance of managing conflict when it arises. Again, there's some tips, a video, and then in the what to do next, there's a whole stack of resources that young people can use. So they can set up an agreement, build house traditions. There's a roster game, Howcast. I'm sure most of you are aware of it, but it's a fantastic website where it has how to do anything. And when I was speaking to the young people, I think the reason they liked this is that they could go in and it could teach them how to do anything, and there wasn't shame around it. They didn't feel like they had to ask someone else. There was a simple video teach them how to use a washing machine or how to clean a shower or something like that. So this one was a really, really important one that I think a lot of young people thought was going to be really useful for them. And then again, we go down to the more information and services, which has got some places we can visit and some more information. And again, at the bottom, all housing. And another one that I wanted to highlight, which a lot of the young people spoke to me about, was getting emergency accommodation. So, you might go to somewhere and there is accommodation for a week, and then you end up not having any accommodation. And they spoke about this page being particularly useful so that young people or people at risk could understand what they might be able to do. So this one here was written by one of the young people, in that if there's nothing available, you can ask for a padlock, you can get a voucher, all these different things that I certainly would never have thought of. So this is another one that the young people have said to me that we want this here. This is going to be really useful for others. So that's another one I wanted to highlight. And again, down to the bottom, and we navigate back. And then to navigate back to the landing page, again, it's at the bottom and back to all of the resources. So I'm going to go into legal now. And again, it's taking a little while to load, but one of the things, or one of the topics that came up, was the idea of reporting a crime and not knowing and not knowing how to do it. And so I spoke to a lived consultant, and she was saying, it's about being scared to even approach the police. So we came up with how we could report a crime anonymously, how to take someone with you if you wanted to report a crime, all these kinds of things that that a young person or a person at risk might not have thought about. So I'm hoping that this too will be really, really useful. And like I was saying, we can navigate to the outcome, the what to do next, more information and services. I think something to note about the more information and services is that all the phone lines link straight away, all of the websites link straight away. So it should be very easy to navigate for young people, especially those who are used to using a laptop or a website. They should be able to find it very easy to use. So again, scroll down to the middle of the page, goes back to the landing page of legal. And one of the other ones that I thought was really interesting, it's not my work, but challenging a fine, is Fine Fixer. This was a real find. So this website basically takes the person through the fine process and allows them to understand exactly what to do next. So it's a really, really useful resource. You're probably all aware of it. But when I showed some of the young people, they were blown away by how easy it was to do something like this. So hopefully that too is useful. And then again, at the bottom, navigate back to legal, and then we navigate back to the landing page. So I've got 3 left: money, relationships, and transport. Within money, it's quite straightforward: opening a bank account, how to save money, how to borrow money, how to avoid paying high interest rates, superannuation, and debt. I think one of the ones that I've already spoken about was the budget, which I think will be really, really useful, particularly because it is so personalised and it can be very useful. Another one that should be is very relevant, and I'm hoping to be very useful. And I gathered all these tips from different lived consultants and young people I spoke to. But some of the tips were like special stalking, write down everything that you buy. If you see something, don't buy it for 10 days. One of these was a really great idea from another lived consultant, that always have emergency money. So if you can't get somewhere, or your house floods or something happens, you have some money to do something with. So I'm hoping that too will be really useful for our young people. Again, back to all money, and we navigate that. Sorry, my computer's taking a while to load. Again, relationships is a big topic. So I've got a fair amount in there, and it was hard to sort of narrow down what was the most important part. And we also went into dangerous relationships, or relationships that might be harmful. After that, we went into contacting members of birth families, and then into sexual health, into pregnancy, and then into parenting. And another thing to note is at the bottom of relationships, again, I've got this I want to know more about. So, there's more information about family and domestic violence. There's information about pregnancy, unplanned pregnancy, and sexuality and gender identity. So I'm just going to go into one of them and again highlight that the idea is this is for someone who might be exploring or wants to know more information about this, and it's just lots of links. So the idea is the person can go through this at their own time. There's a bunch of hotlines as well. And again, we've got this exit over here. So hopefully this is a safe space for people to look at this information and to explore. So back into the relationships page, and navigating back to the everyday living resources. And the last one was transport. And I think this one seemed to be really important to young people, because a lot of them are getting here and there all the time for work, for school, for different things. And I think a lot of them don't know things. So I know when we were talking about riding a bike, and I'm going to go through this one with you, a lot of them didn't know that they could ride on the footpath with a child, or they couldn't ride on the footpath, or they had to have a helmet. So I've got this information highlighted. So hopefully when this young person, or the person who's the client looking through this, the information is clear to them. Oh, okay, so if I'm riding a bike, these are the rules. And then if I go to what to do next, There's some information on how to service their bikes. There's, again, how to get out of a fine if they've got one that they shouldn't have. There's a really good app where they can work out the best ways to get somewhere via a bike instead of Google Maps, which isn't always the best. And then basic bike safety. So I'm hoping that one will be really, really useful. And another one I wanted to highlight was maintain my car and not get ripped off. And this one, again, was brought to me by young people saying, you know, often they've got a car, they've been able to afford a car, but they take it somewhere and all of a sudden it's costing them all this money and it doesn't make sense. And a lot of them didn't realize that, you know, there's roadside assistance, there's the RACV registered mechanics and things like that. So this too was brought to me by a young person with the idea that by reading through this lesson, you will understand at the end that you don't just go to any mechanic that you see, that you go to one that you trust, you ask your friends, you ask your family, you try and find that information, because I think 2 or 3 of them that I spoke to said this topic was something that's happened to them and the debt was so catastrophic to them that you know, they couldn't do other things because they had to pay so much money to this mechanic who didn't even fix the car. So this is another one that a lot of lived consultants spoke about. And I just want to really quickly mention that a lot of what I've done with this resource is linked quite heavily to the Wombat resource that exists already. So if I look at this information here and I quickly go to an assessment over here, you can see that it links to the same types of headings. So the idea is that you can use them together for those people who are already using that. So that's my guided tour.
I just wanted to add, I think it's absolutely fantastic that Jess and the team got so much feedback from young people. And obviously from Jess, your presentation, they've obviously guided you and given you so much good information. I think that's absolutely brilliant. So well done. I think it's amazing and very impressed and very pleased to have that on the Wombat website.
I can see someone's raised their hand here. Just give me a second.
Thank you for that, Rebecca. I learned a lot.
There we go, Lynn.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks. I just wanted to firstly say what a great piece of work. I really think this has been the missing link, and so you should all be very proud of what you've achieved. It looks fantastic, and I look forward to my teams being able to support young people to use the tool.
Got any more questions? Feel free to contact Wombat, and I hope the resource is useful. Thank you all for your time.